What if I told you that people can lose respect for you in less than 30 seconds? Not because you're weak, not because you're unsuccessful, but because of a few behaviors you don't even realize you're doing. Behaviors that quietly destroy your value every time you repeat them. And here's the dangerous part. Most people think these behaviors make them more likable, more accepted, more appreciated. In reality, they're doing the exact opposite. Every day, people unknowingly send signals. Signals that say, my boundaries don't matter. My time isn't valuable. My approval depends on your opinion. And the moment people receive those signals, everything changes. The way they speak to you, the way they treat you, the way they value your presence. Respect doesn't disappear all at once. It leaks, slowly, silently, one conversation at a time, one compromise at a time, one act of self-betrayal at a time. That's why some people walk into a room and instantly command attention, while others spend years trying to earn the same respect and never get it. The difference isn't luck. It isn't money. It isn't status. It's something far more powerful, and most people never discover it. Today, you're about to. Because in this video, we're exposing the 10 behaviors that instantly make people lose respect for you. Some of them will be obvious. Others will shock you. And one of them is probably costing you respect right now without you even knowing it. Watch carefully. Because once you see these behaviors, you'll start noticing them everywhere. In your friends, in your coworkers, maybe even in yourself. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I know my value. And let's begin. Number 1, you explain yourself too much. Here's what nobody tells you. The more you explain yourself, the less powerful you appear. Most people don't realize this because they think explanations create understanding. But in reality, excessive explanations often create doubt. Think about someone who's completely confident in their decision. They explain it once, maybe twice, then they move on. Now think about someone who spends 20 minutes defending every tiny detail. Then they explain again. Then they clarify. Then they justify. Then they provide evidence. Then they repeat themselves. What does that communicate? Certainty? No. It communicates insecurity. Because people subconsciously ask themselves a question. If this person is so confident, why are they trying so hard to convince me? And the moment that question appears, respect begins to decline. Most people are trapped in a dangerous habit. They believe everyone needs to understand them. They believe everyone deserves an explanation. They believe disagreement is a problem that must be solved. But that's impossible. No matter how clearly you communicate, some people will misunderstand you. No matter how honest you are, some people will doubt you. No matter how much evidence you provide, some people will never agree. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing understanding. You stop seeking approval. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control opinions that were never yours to control. Because here's the truth. The strongest people don't explain every decision. They don't defend every action. They don't waste energy convincing people who have already made up their minds. They speak, they decide, and they move forward. That's confidence, not arrogance. Confidence. And confidence earns respect. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust my decisions. Number 2, you need everyone to like you. This lesson alone changes lives. Because the need to be liked is one of the biggest respect killers in existence. Most people don't see it. They think being liked and being respected are the same thing. They're not. In fact, sometimes opposites. Think about the most respected people you've ever met. Were they loved by everyone? No. Someone always disagreed with them. Someone always criticized them. Someone always disliked them. And yet, they remained respected. Why? Because they never sacrificed themselves for approval. Most people do. They change their personality depending on who they're around. They hide their opinions. They suppress their beliefs. They laugh at jokes they don't find funny. They agree with things they don't agree with, all because they're afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of conflict, afraid someone won't like them. And every time they do it, they lose a piece of themselves. Here's the problem. People can sense desperation, not consciously, but instinctively. When someone needs approval, you can feel it. You can feel them constantly checking for validation, constantly looking for acceptance, constantly adjusting themselves to fit everyone else's expectations. And strangely enough, the harder they try to be liked, the less respect they receive. Because respect comes from authenticity, not performance. The people who command respect aren't trying to win everyone over. They're simply being themselves. And if someone doesn't like it, they survive. That's what makes them powerful. They're not controlled by approval. They're not addicted to validation. They're not prisoners of other people's opinions. People respect them more. Here's something most people learn too late. The moment you stop needing everyone to like you is usually the moment more people start respecting you. Because confidence is attractive. Neediness isn't. Drop this affirmation. I don't chase approval. Number 3, you have no boundaries. This is where respect quietly dies. Not through insults, not through betrayal, but through constant access. Most people think being available is a virtue. They think saying yes makes them valuable. They think sacrificing themselves makes them noble. But here's what actually happens. The more available you become, the more people take you for granted. Think about that person who's always available, always answering, always helping, always saying yes. What happens? People stop appreciating it because what is always available eventually feels ordinary. Now think about the opposite. Think about someone who values their time, someone who says no when necessary, someone who protects their energy, someone who has standards. How do people treat them differently? Because boundaries create value. Boundaries communicate self-respect. Boundaries tell the world, my time matters. My energy matters. My life matters. And people respond accordingly. Number 4, you react to everything. You know why some people lose respect the moment they open their mouth? Because everyone can control them. Think about it. Someone insults them, they react. Someone criticizes them, they react. Someone disagrees with them, they react. Someone posts something online, they react. Their entire emotional state is controlled by whatever happens around them. And whether they realize it or not, people notice. Because the person who reacts to everything appears weak. Not physically weak, emotionally weak. Most people think strength is about fighting back. They think strength means always having a comeback, always having the last word, always proving someone wrong. But that's not strength. That's emotional dependency. Because if somebody can control your emotions, they control you. Think about the calmest person you've ever met. The person who never seemed rattled. The person who stayed composed under pressure. The person who remained calm while everyone else was losing control. What made them impressive? It wasn't their words. It was their restraint, their ability to stay centered. when chaos surrounded them. That's power. Because anyone can react. Very few people can remain composed. Most people are like open doors. Anyone can walk in and affect their mood. One comment ruins their day. One opinion destroys their confidence. One disagreement keeps them awake at night. And because they're so easy to influence, they're impossible to respect fully. The strongest people understand something different. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every battle deserves your participation. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every critic deserves your attention. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing. Not because you're afraid, because you're disciplined. Because you understand that your emotions are valuable, and you refuse to hand them over to anyone who wants them. The next time someone tries to provoke you, the next time someone wants a reaction, the next time you feel anger rising, because that pause is where power lives. And the people who master that pause become impossible to manipulate. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my reactions. Number 5, you chase people who don't choose you. This lesson destroys more self-respect than almost anything else. Because most people don't realize when they're chasing. They think they're fighting for a relationship. They think they're showing loyalty. They think they're proving commitment. But often, they're simply refusing to accept reality. Think about someone who constantly has to chase. They're always texting first, always initiating conversations, always making plans, always trying harder, always giving more. And what happens? The more they chase, the less valued they become. Because here is a harsh truth. People value what they must earn, and they often overlook what is freely available. Now, I'm not saying effort is bad. Effort matters. Relationships require effort. Friendships require effort. But effort should flow both ways. The moment you are the only one carrying the relationship, something is wrong. Most people stay because they're afraid of losing someone, afraid of being alone, afraid of accepting that the other person simply doesn't care enough, so they keep chasing. And every step they take costs them respect, because chasing communicates a dangerous message. It says, my standards are negotiable. My attention is unlimited. My value depends on your acceptance. And people feel that, even if they never say it out loud. The strongest people understand something different. If someone wants to be in your life, they'll make room. If someone values you, they'll show it. If someone cares, you won't have to beg for evidence. The moment you stop chasing, something amazing happens. You see the truth. You discover who was genuinely interested, who was genuinely invested, who was genuinely committed. And while that truth can be painful, it's infinitely better than living in an illusion. Remember this. The right people don't require endless pursuit. The right people move toward you too. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I attract. I don't chase. Number 6, you break your own word. Most people think respect is something other people give you, but that's only half the story. The other half? Self-respect. And self-respect is built through one thing: trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your discipline. Trust in your ability to do what you said you would do. Here's the problem. Most people constantly break promises to themselves. They say they'll wake up early. They don't. They say they'll start working out. They don't. They say they'll stop procrastinating. They don't. They say they'll change their life, and nothing changes. At first, it seems harmless. Nobody notices. Nobody criticizes them. Nobody calls them out. But something dangerous is happening beneath the surface. Their self-trust is dying because every broken promise sends a message to your brain. A message that says, my words don't matter. My commitments aren't real. My promises mean nothing. And eventually, you start believing it. Think about someone you could never rely on. Someone who constantly makes promises, but never follows through. Would you trust them? Of course not. Now ask yourself a harder question. How many promises have you broken to yourself? How many times have you promised change, promised discipline, promised growth, only to abandon it days later? This is where respect begins. Not in public, in private. Not when people are watching, when nobody is watching. The people who command respect aren't perfect. They don't always win. They don't always succeed. But they have something most people lack: consistency. When they say they'll do something, they do it. When they make a commitment, they honor it. When they set a goal, they move toward it. And every time they keep their word, their self-respect grows stronger. Their confidence grows stronger. Their discipline grows stronger. Because confidence doesn't come from positive thinking. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Evidence that your word means something. Evidence that you follow through. The next time you make a promise to yourself, treat it like a contract. Treat it like something sacred. Because every promise you keep builds respect. And every promise you break destroys it. Not just in the eyes of others, in your own eyes. And that's where the real damage happens. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My word means something. Number 7. You tolerate disrespect. Most people think respect is lost during major moments. A betrayal, a public humiliation, a huge argument. But that's not how it usually happens. Respect is often lost through small moments, tiny moments, moments so insignificant that most people ignore them. Someone interrupts you constantly. You say nothing. Someone makes a disrespectful joke at your expense. You laugh along. Someone repeatedly ignores your boundaries. You let it slide again and again and again until eventually they stop seeing you as someone who deserves respect. Because here's something most people don't understand. People learn how to treat you by watching what you tolerate, not what you say, what you tolerate. Every time you accept behavior that violates your standards, you send a message that says, this is acceptable. And people believe you. Think about a fence. The moment there's a hole in it, people stop using the gate. They start using the hole. Human beings are no different. The moment your standards become negotiable, people start negotiating them. That's why strong boundaries create respect, not because they control other people, but because they communicate self-respect. The people who command respect aren't always the loudest. They're often the clearest. Clear about what they'll accept. Clear about what they won't. Clear about where the line is. And because the line is clear, people rarely cross it. The next time someone disrespects you, pay attention, not to them, to yourself. Because the question isn't, why are they doing this? The question is, why am I allowing it? That answer changes everything. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My standards are non-negotiable. Number 8. You gossip too much. Here's a truth most people never realize. Every time you gossip about someone, the person listening starts trusting you less, not more, less. Because while you're talking about someone else, they're imagining what you say when they're not around. Think about it. Someone sits down next to you and immediately starts criticizing everybody. Their friends, their coworkers, their family, their neighbors. At first, it feels entertaining, but after a while, something changes. You start questioning them. You start wondering, if they talk about everyone this way, what do they say about me? And that's the problem. Gossip creates temporary attention, but destroys long-term respect. The highest value people don't spend their lives discussing others. They're too busy building themselves, too busy improving themselves, too focused on their own goals. Most gossip comes from insecurity, because it's easier to analyze someone else's life than improve your own. It's easier to criticize than create. It's easier to judge than grow. That's why gossip feels good in the moment, but costs you credibility in the long run. The people who command respect understand something different. Every word is an investment, and they refuse to waste those investments. Discussing people who aren't even in the room. Speak with purpose. Speak with intention. Speak with integrity. Because your words build your reputation, one conversation at a time. Drop this affirmation. My words have value. Number 9. You have no mission. Nothing commands respect like purpose, and nothing destroys respect like aimlessness. Think about the people you admire, the people who inspire others, the people who seem impossible to distract. What do they have in common? Direction. They know where they're going. They know what matters. They know what they're building. And because of that, the world takes them seriously. Most people don't have that. Most people drift, one trend to the next, one distraction to the next, one opinion to the next, one excuse to the next. They wake up without purpose, spend the day reacting, and go to sleep wondering why nothing changes. The problem isn't intelligence. The problem isn't talent. The problem isn't opportunity. The problem is direction. Because without direction, you become easy to influence, easy to distract, easy to control. But when you have a mission, something changes. You become selective. You become focused. You become disciplined. Because suddenly every decision is measured against something bigger. Most people seek motivation, but respected people seek purpose. Because motivation comes and goes. Purpose stays. Purpose keeps you moving when motivation disappears. Purpose keeps you focused when distractions appear. Purpose keeps you strong when life becomes difficult. Find something worth pursuing. Find something worth building. Find something worth sacrificing for. Because people naturally respect those who are committed to something greater than themselves. Number 10. You don't respect yourself. This is the root of everything. Every lesson you heard today leads back here. Because the truth is simple. People rarely respect you more than you respect yourself. Think about it. Why do people over-explain? Because they don't trust themselves. Why do people chase approval? Because they don't value their own opinion enough. Why do people tolerate disrespect? Because they don't believe they deserve better. Why do people abandon boundaries? Because they fear losing others more than losing themselves. Everything starts here. Self-respect. The relationship you have with yourself determines every other relationship in your life. And most people never realize it. They spend years trying to change how others treat them without changing how they treat themselves. But the world mirrors you. The standards you set for yourself become the standards others set for you. The value you assign yourself becomes the value others assign to you. The respect you show yourself becomes the respect others show you. This isn't arrogance. This isn't ego. This is identity. Because when you genuinely respect yourself, you stop accepting less than you deserve. You stop begging for attention. You stop chasing validation. You stop sacrificing your peace for temporary approval. You become different. Not because you changed your appearance. Not because you became richer. Not because you became more popular. But because your standards changed. And when your standards change, your life changes. The people around you change. Your relationships change. Everything changes. Because self-respect isn't something you earn from the world. It's something you decide. And once that decision is made, the world begins responding differently. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I respect myself completely. Today, you've discovered the 10 behaviors that silently destroy respect. You learned why over-explaining weakens your position, why approval-seeking makes you less attractive, why weak boundaries invite disrespect, why emotional reactions give away power, why chasing people lowers your value, why breaking your word destroys self-trust, why tolerating disrespect teaches others how to treat you, why gossip damages your credibility, why aimlessness weakens your presence, and finally, why self-respect is the foundation of everything. But here's the truth. Most people will watch this video, agree with everything, and change absolutely nothing. Tomorrow, they'll continue explaining themselves. Continue chasing approval. Continue tolerating behavior they hate. Continue abandoning their own standards. And a year from now, their life will look exactly the same. But a small percentage of people, a very small percentage, will take these lessons seriously. Those people will become stronger, calmer, more confident, more respected. Not because the world changed, because they changed. Because they stopped negotiating their value. Because they stopped asking for permission to respect themselves. And because they finally understood something most people never learn. Respect isn't demanded. Respect isn't begged for. Respect isn't chased. Respect is earned by the standards you refuse to compromise. The moment you stop abandoning yourself is the moment people start seeing your worth. So I want to ask you one final question. Are you ready to raise your standards? Are you ready to stop giving away your respect? Are you ready to become the strongest version of yourself? If your answer is yes, drop "I know my value" in the comments right now. And remember, the world treats you the way you teach it to treat you. Teach it wisely.